for joining today's webinar. Today we'll be speaking about strategic detail revenue volume planning with cannibalization effect. So thank you so much for being here and hope you're doing well. Today's presentation, we will look into what we can do about the planning and forecasting, budgeting about revenue and volume planning into SAC, how we can leverage that tool. And a little bit about me, I'm a principal consultant at Simplify Solution. I have plus 10 years of experience in international client services. And I also have plus 4 years of implementation about BDC, specifically about SAP Analytics Cloud. So I've been working with implementations such as revenue and volume planning that we'll be discussing today, doing implementation of financial statement, all the allocation and very customization processes of FP&A about many different industry, many different types. Today's session, it's really about brainstorming together. It's maybe you will recognize and see this is exactly what I'm doing. Maybe it will be something that it's somehow very similar to what you are doing, or maybe that's something that will inspire you, that will give you some idea about, hey, what business processes that is manual today that I could automate with that tool. So if you have any question, please feel free to pop up in the chat. If you maybe have some idea in the next day or the next week or month, please always feel free to reach out to us, either me personally or Simplify, either by email or by LinkedIn. And it always be a pleasure to follow up with you guys. So today I have an agenda in 5 points to propose you. We'll first look into who we are, who's Simplify Solution. Then we'll speak a bit about the challenge of today for revenue and volume planning. We'll do a small jump in the system, check the demo, see what the system can do, show you the granularity. We'll look into the driver that can drive your volume, the driver that can drive your price. And then we'll go into a more niche topic, which is product cannibalization effect, where we will look into how you can plan your volume based on specific inputs, such as market share, market size, and your unit price. Then I will show you how you can have the system to have your cannibalization rate automated. All right. Simplify. Who's Simplify? Simplify is a niche boutique firm based out of Chicago and Montreal. We are analytic and financial expert, and the firm is really focusing on business process design, business content, automation, and implementation of SAP planning, analytic, and consolidation solution. We are really proud to be an SAP go-to partner for planning and analytic. What does that mean? It's really, we have close partnership. We are really working closely in SAP to make sure we create the best breed solution, application, and business processes for you guys. And we are participating into competition, some of the hackathon, to really show the innovation and business process that are up to date. One of our main core value is to be 100% referenceable. What that means for us, it means that our client, it's really our priority. That's their satisfaction. It's really our main objective. And that's why we are really striving to really be your trusted advisor. So either from you are doing an end-to-end planning, or you need staffing, or you're just doing one of the component we'll be looking into later, we really want to be there 100% for you. And above the implementation, it's really a matter for us to make sure you have the right knowledge to use the tool. So sometimes we go in these implementations. So it's really important for us that there is like a before, a during, and an after, but to make sure you really have your own efficiency and own freedom and understanding of the tool we are using. We are working with clients all around the globe, all around many different industry and many different type of processes. We are doing business services. We are really focusing on technology. We have expert for BPC, BW, ANA. And here we also have the Planify platform where you can have all the prepackaged application for you. What we have, what differentiates us from the other business partner, it's really the fact that we have expertise. We have internal or staff have been in the shoes of the FP&A. They have been seeing the real world example of what is it to work and what are your own processes. And with all that expertise, we've grouped all that into our application. So we have prepackaged application where it can act at both catalyzer. It can either be used as a plug and play, where you can very efficiently use the application, very sharp and quick implementation, where you can already see some of the result, the planning and forecasting and all the reporting. But of course, we all know that each of you are special and each of your business has their own requirement. So the other path to that, it's really about taking this application as the ground, as a very solid foundation that will very ease the gap analysis, where we will be able to add your product requirement into it. So what does that mean? It means that you have a starting point, very solid from the expertise of the market. Then you have much more advanced capability in regards to your gap analysis, because you have a point of references, and then it's just a matter of listening to you and really understand what your business is doing and where we can standardize or where we could apply the best practice we have. So it's very a mix of that ecosystem that gives you much bigger rate of success for your product implementation. So for us, that's really important, and that's what we offer. We have multiple of them. Today, we'll be looking at the revenue. So it's a very simplistic view of the detailed revenue, where we can drive via the unit price and volume. But we will also be seeing a more niche product, which is not in the prepackaged, but just to show you the capability of the tool, what is available for you. This is globally how you can visualize the structure if you go with an EPM implementation. So you really have all your data sourcing, and then you go to look into your revenue, volume, margin. You can look into the supply chain expense. And then, of course, all that create a very streamlined flow that reads and tied out all to your P&L, balance sheet, and all your performance, and the famous bridge reporting that we are all looking at as the final results. You can either go with us and say, hey, I need to do automation of all of that, so let's do very end-to-end full implementation, or you can also just look into some modelization and just have a starting point. So let's say you have enough resources and time to maybe kick in with revenue and volume margin. It will be a starting point, and then we'll make sure that supply chain, it's maybe the next, or you can really choose your priority. It's not an obligation to do an end-to-end, but that's really the flexibility we propose. You have both options. For the one who don't know exactly what is SAP Analytics Cloud or not yet familiar with that, SAP Analytics Cloud, it's an SAP product under the umbrella of BTP and under BDC. BDC, it's mainly about SAP Analytics Cloud, Databricks, as well as DataSphere. So it's really SAP Analytics Cloud that will touch base today. We have other webinar on DataSphere that we can share. It's really embedded more about the data engineering. Today we'll be very looking at the planning, but more than just the planning in SAP Analytics Cloud. It can provide you some BI, the storytelling, all the predictive. We also see a lot of investment from SAP into the AI. That's not just a buzzword. It's really something they are looking forward, where you can have all that automated, having some influencer to make sure you have some control on those AI prediction. So globally, that's what we'll be looking at today, but into the system, we'll be looking at planning. You can be having data coming from both SAP sources or not. So it doesn't matter if you're an SAP client yet or not. If you are, of course, this is where you gain value, competitive advantage, and very streamline your processes, because people will speak the same languages and all the ecosystem and the integration will talk to each other to really have a solid business process automation in place. But if you're not an SAP customer yet, it still also work with external data, and especially more with DataSphere, where you can really create joins. You can make sure that you have the right data set all together, which is very much more dynamic. So you have both option, either building your planning model in SAP Analytics Cloud, but we have very stronger solution. If you really need to have some cleaning of your data, we can also provide you that under the BDC umbrella from DataSphere. That is what we are doing as a partner with SAP. And let's jump into the topic of today. So revenue and volume planning, it's a very hot topic. Either you are small businesses or a big industry, it's something that FP&A needs to do. And we are seeing a lot of challenge. We are seeing that, as we know, you have multiple data sourcing, might come from SAP, Excel, Oracle, and we've been seeing on the ground, let's say either you are a small business and you have many different business units, you have discrepancy between those units. And that becomes very difficult to work with these data sets to make sure you have all the same template. And we've seen it with the international business firm as well, because let's say you have people working in EMEA, working even in North America, US versus Canada, they are doing somehow the same thing, but maybe someone is working at this granularity and the other person is working at maybe product group. How do you make sure that you can really have valuable data bottom up? And that's what I want to show you, and that's what SAC propose you. It's really a seamless integration across system and data sourcing. So I touched base a little bit before. You can either take the path of building your model into SAP Analytics Cloud or DataSphere if you have much more requirement. And that really gives you the opportunity to know where's your data. And your data, it's really the fuel of your business, because without any data, you cannot do any planning. So it's very important, and SAP give you that solution to get things right, to get your financial, your starting point right. So that's very powerful. And we won't go in that detail, but you can check on our website about like DataSphere and all the modelization side. For us today, we'll be only looking at the end product of that modelization. The other thing I was touching base on is the level of granularity. So people are working at so many different level, and then you are trying to reconcile maybe an Excel that has Python and the other one that has VBA and that have that sources SQL, and maybe you have some error issue and you have 12 versions of these Excel. It becomes very difficult for a business to add value, and your folks are spending time and overburning their time into administrative tasks. So what we propose is to be connected. So yes, you have your model, but on top of your model, you will have standardized template. We'll provide you a standardized tool. And we will see today, let's say you have multiple industry, multiple business unit, and they need to do their planning. Because your model is providing you security, you can use this template for all your business unit or all your region, just having one source of truth. And that really brings me to the fourth point here, where the really objective is to make sure that everybody is speaking the same languages. So let's say you have newcomer, it's become much more easier if everybody is doing the same thing in the same way to add value and really focus on your analytic, really focus on the strategic aspect instead of just the conversum of all the administrative and manual time that takes to consolidate those files and those business processes. So we know it's very draining and inefficient. And so that's why the solution we propose you, it's really about being more strategic, gaining competitive advantage, and make sure you know your data. So now we'll jump into the demo for revenue and volume planning. So for the one that don't know SAC, this is my platform. When you logged in here, you have your home, and here we have what we called a dashboard. So it's very important in SAP or any implementation that you need to know the flow of your process. It could be designed as for your own businesses. So here we are seeing we have our landing page and we have 3 different topics. Today we'll take a look at the first one and the third one. Here you can state all of your requirement. And for us today, we will look into volume and revenue baseline. Then we will check into, okay, how I can apply some growth to my volume, price assumption, and monthly volume planning. So first of all, that is your SAP Analytics Cloud story. So just to start with, what are we looking at today? So here you have guidance at the top. You have your story filter where you have your version, your date. So what are we really looking at today? We are looking at US for my business area retail, for my customer group supermarket, and we will be looking at the washing lotion. So that's really what we call story filter. And here I have page filters. So you have different driver, different on the capability. This one will drive all the page in your story, and that will really drive what you have in your template below. So the objective in here is saying, all right, I want to do my budget and I want it to be efficient. So here we are taking as a baseline to do our budget, the Q3 forecast of 24. So that Q3 forecast 24 is then pushed into your budget version. So with just one click, you will already seed your version that you want to plan on. So it will take the baseline of your volume and your unit price, because what we want to adjust and work through, it's our volume based on our organic growth and our unit price based on our pricing assumption. And then we can derive back the revenue based on the market and all the information we have internally and externally. So you see that here by just one click by my selection, because it's reading already my filter at the top, you are able to already have a very solid baseline at a very much detailed level. Like you've seen here, we have US, the company code, the business area. Today, we are only working at one set of data, but that will bring your full suite. Now, what you want to do is you say, okay, I have my volume baseline, which is my baseline from Q3 forecast, but I want to apply some organic growth. But how I do that? Let's say I have like 1,000 of product. By just having that global input, this is what we call a global input, at a much more higher level than your details. So you can see the little difference in here. To gain efficiency, I just remove the product. So I'm saying for that particular selection, I want to apply a 9% growth for my volume for my budget 2025. At the minute, that 9%, it's a manual input. So I could change that manually. But we've seen and we've implemented in other client a calculation. So it could be either an organic growth based on specific parameter, it could be an average, it could be really custom to your own processes. Either an input or a calculation. What is it doing then? It's again, by just having one click and zooming into your version and date, it will bring that 9% for that specific intersection to your product detail. So today we are only looking at one product, but let's say I have 1,000 product in that particular intersection of volume. It will come in here and apply your growth. But it's great from there. It's by just one click, you are able to do an allocation down to really work on your bottom approach. Then you can also have control on your monthly basis, because sometimes, yeah, the organic growth, usually in Excel, okay, I will have that on an annual basis, but here it's very dynamic, where you can say, all right, I know I will have an organic growth P1 to P6, but I know from P7, it goes up to 12% because of economic conjuncture. So here you will be able to change these percentages and the system will update for you on the fly. So here you have your baseline, which is coming from your Q3 forecast. Then you can see exactly what it's your growth volume. So you have your percentages translate into units, and then you can have your total volume planning. You can also say, look, I know I will have 12% up to the end of the year, but on top of that 12%, I want to do an adjustment for December because we will have a new contract and we know that we'll have more sales, more unit to produce. So you can say, okay, I have my 12% that was already applied to my baseline, but I have a special order for the upcoming year and I want to increase of 4,000. So you can just either change the value like this, or I will give an example for the month of November. You can also do percentages plus 10%, or you can just do also plus 2,000. So here you have multiple options depending on how you are used, or depending on your situation. Of course, now we are looking into the volume organic growth, but you can apply many other different type of driver for your volume. We'll see that a little bit in the next step, where you look at your unit price. So your unit price has been copied from your baseline, and now we know that we have some maybe discount that we need to apply. We have some inflation, and let's say you have hyperinflation in Turkey versus in the US, it might just be like a 2%. This is where you can control your data again at an higher level, what we call a global input, and then to make sure it's allocated down to your product. And let's say you know that your hyperinflation will apply to product X, but the hyperinflation for Turkey, as an example, will not apply for another product. You have the control in the bottom up approach on your planning detail. So now I already preset for us the percentages, and I just need to run that particular intersection on my version, on my date. As you can see, they are preceded in here. We run that, and on the below, we'll have very similar thing to our volume, but we have a little bit more breakdown. So what is great with that is you really can see what is made up of your unit price planning. So you have your baseline, you know what's your starting point. We're not overriding it because it's very interesting to keep track of it, and you don't always want to go back in your forecast, what was my baseline. So we keep trace of that, and then we just compound on it. Do we need to apply a discount? Do we need to apply an inflation? And you see that here, these percentages has been dollarized on a monthly basis and can as well be changed on the fly. So let's say that I know the inflation was 5%, but I want to maybe change my baseline because we have a new pricing structure from September, and we need to increase it at maybe $13 because we'll do like very fantastic advertisement, and that will bring the unit price to be higher. So here I've copied into the total, so it gives you a disaggregation. But if that is another good example, because you can also adjust your value not just on a monthly basis, but on an annual basis. And as you can see, just at the top in here, it's automatically updated your reporting. So that is a very small set of reporting, but it's just to show you and inspire you about, hey, what type of KPI and what type of, sometimes a picture worth 1,000 word. So here we have like some charts, some more line, and here you have really a KPI that is exactly reflecting what you have in your screen. From there, you can always do variance analysis as well. You can add some KPIs, say, okay, this versus my forecast of last year, and all those things can be configured. What we are seeing today, it's really a powerful system integration about first your data set, your dimensionality, make sure you are able to align at the same level your volume, revenue, and unit. That's the very main thing to remember. And then the second capability is saying, okay, it's very challenging to maintain these organic growth and these driver at a detail level. So let's create global input or some sort of specific calculation and make sure the system is doing the allocation for you. And then this is where it becomes much more interesting for you to work along the line with the system at your detail. And now it's US, but maybe I have my colleague Genvi that it's working in Canada, that it's doing the same thing at the same time. So depend on their security. You can also share your version, very collaborate with your internal team. This is what we call a public version, and the very good capability is the what if scenario. So what we've just done, it's a what if scenario. Let's say I don't like it or I messed up a little bit, fine, I can just revert the data and start all over again. So here I've reverted the data, it will clean your bottom screen, and then you can start over by saying, okay, I want my baseline to be pushed again, but I want to change the assumption to be 10% instead. You will be able to do so. Let's say I want to change for 10%, my assumption. Just need to wait for it to refresh. So you see some color coding when your value has been changed, and then you can rerun. And instead of the 9% that was applied before, now you will have the 10% that you will be able to play with. And the same dynamic apply for your price assumption. Let's say finally my inflation, it's more about 4% because we have having positive economic conjuncture. You can just make sure you change your value, just wait a minute and then click on your price allocation and it will again allocate it down and you can play with that. You also have a specific hierarchy. So here we have having a flat view, but we also have the aspect in SAP Analytics Cloud of your hierarchy. So here we are drilled down to level 6. We can drill down to level 1, where it will be much more aggregated. You have your total, and you can play around really to make sure each user is having their own preferences. You can display either ID and description as well. You can also look into the master data. So if you look at some of the property that are based in your model, here we only have description. But that's something that the user can play around with. It's not just a developer option. It's really something that gives much flexibility about the visualization and the planning activities. All right. And the final point is Then when you've planned your revenue and your unit, you can have your revenue planning according to the detail. And what it's great is you have great insight, because let's say, okay, I have 11,220 for Jan, but what does that mean? How many volume I need to produce, and what is my unit price? What it's really driving that revenue? What are my impact? All right. So now let's jump back into our second topic, where we will be talking about product cannibalization. So first, what is product cannibalization? It's cannibalization occur when sales of a new product reduce sales of an existing product within the same company. And nothing better than a very good real life example, Apple. Tim Cook said that cannibalization doesn't worry him because he understands it. Because if he's not doing it himself, people will take his sale, like Samsung, like Google Pixel. So it's really important to understand when you have a cannibalization, when you want to launch a new product, is it driving a risk or it's driving an opportunity? You really need to understand the fact that, okay, you might have the best advertising strategy, the best marketing roadmap, but what does that mean in your financials? Are you going to lose money? Are you going to gain? What about your goodwill? Because if you launch a product that maybe have less value because you just try to get some market share, you can affect your reputation. If you're very high end and then try to sell low basic product, it can be harmful for you. So you really need to make sure that your storyline about your qualitative as well as quantitative, it's aligned. And the risk is maybe the company may overestimate the growth because they are so excited about that innovation, but how the market will react, how many units you really need to sell to make sure you're not losing any profit. You really need to make sure that your pricing strategy is great. But there's the other side that, of course, when you grow and forecast well, you can have a cannibalization that worth it. You can have higher product margin and you can very support the life cycle. What I want to show you today, it's how you can harmonize these two storylines and speak with all your department. So you will have your FP&E team that is looking at financial, but that is also speaking to the supply chain and to the marketing. So as a global in your business ecosystem, what is it doing? And before jumping into the demo, we'll just look into an example. Let's take Apple. Every year, they are releasing a new iPhone. So let's say iPhone 16 Pro Max replace the iPhone 15 Pro Max. That doesn't matter because the unit profit is higher. People have the power of purchase, and every user that will switch his phone for a 16 Pro Max will be beneficial. So there is absolutely no cannibalization risk. So that is the first example that Tim Cook is not scared of doing any cannibalization because the margin and the profit will be there for the folks that can afford. But in the reality, it's not everybody that can afford that 15 Pro, that 16 Pro Max. So we've seen them releasing iPhone, for instance, 16 SE, which has lower price and thinner margin than the 16 Pro Max. But it's efficient because even though you have less profit, you really create a sense of belonging. And instead of losing your sales for, again, Samsung or Google Pixel or all the other competitor, it stay within you. The thing is you just need to understand exactly your break even and where and how you should plan your production and your volume of unit you can sold with the information that you have internally about your unit profit. So here, they expand Apple new customer that cannot afford the Pro. They will be having stabilization of the volume, keep the competitor out, but you really need to set your pricing and positioning well. Like it's good to say, just the right amount. If let's say you are able to say, look, I'm losing profit, but I have a big storyline behind it. It will gain us some partnership for the future, or it will create such a big goodwill, and you can plan for the next year about that impact. That's exactly what I want to show you and what SAP Analytics Cloud can propose you. So the objective today is to go above what I will be showing you to really propose you a solution for your department to speak all together. So now let's take a look in the system, how we can derive two things. We'll look into our cannibalization rate automation. But first, before going there, we are back into our product cannibalization effect story. What we have in here, it's I want to show you as well on top of that cannibalization substitution weight, how you can derive with the system your volume based on basic input, such as market share, market size, and your internal information about unit price and unit cost. So here, we know that globally the market size for the supermarket. So here again, we're working on an higher level. We know that the customer group will have 80K. And we are just looking here at January, but that can extend on a monthly basis. It's just to trying to simplify the concept here. Let's say you know that your Tide detergent and pod. So here another real life example where, okay, we've been seeing Tide having powder before, then the liquid detergent, it's really something that is popular. But then a couple of years ago, we had the pod coming out and they were very popular. They smell good, everything's great. But these pod, when you have a customer, client in front to buy at your supermarket, they will either buy one or the other. They don't need both. They will just have basic preferences, and sometimes when it's new, they will go with the pod. But for how long? Let's say, oh, it's new, there is the eye, but are they gonna take it? So here, at least you can do what if scenario analysis. And first, you want to derive your volume. So let's say you have 15% for Tide, 5% expectation for pod, and you know that that's your unit price and that's your unit cost. So you see here the system, it's automatically calculating just by one click what would be your unit profit and your derived revenue. So 80 grand by the market share will derive your revenue, and from your revenue you can derive your volume because you have your unit price, and then that will get you your total profit. So that's kind of the baseline of one of the capability of the system can do. And then you can even say, okay, I have some volume based on my market size, but what about my plant production? So maybe it could be great to also compare as per the market, how many units I should be producing versus maybe what was my plan. And then you become here and you do some variance analysis. And again, you create your storyline, but with your plan manager. Now, if we look into the cannibalization rate, here, what I propose you first, it's really having a scenario analysis where I'm saying, all right, here I have a reference table. I'm saying, look, my Tide detergent will be cannibalized 60% with my pod. How many units does that make? So instead of being into an Excel and having many different model, here it's all standardized into one format, and you just click on that button, select your target, again, we are looking at supermarket today. You will look into your relationship product, and then you will run that data action. What that data action, and that is a jargon of SAC. So I was talking about the story filter, input tab. That is what we call a data action. So that data action is having some scripting capabilities in the back end, and the system gives you on the fly the recalculation of your unit based on your input and total your profit. So what we need to look at before we jump into the cannibalization rate, here we did a what if scenario at 60%. So if we look at that, what we really need to take a look at here, it's, hey, if I was just to sell my Tide detergent with 15% market share, I would have a profit of 2,857. If I decide to cannibalize and do my projection at 60% for my pod, I will come and reduce those 109 amount of unit of my Tide, keep my same volume of pod because I'm still at 5% market share, how much it will give me in total profit. And you're off. Here, when you look at only detergent versus your total profit on both, that doesn't look good because you are doing less profit by releasing a new product. Again, if you have a great storyline and you're able to explain to your CFO or your executive team that, hey, I know I will be doing that X amount less, but I have a plan for next year of XYZ. So what I'm proposing you here, it's really having your financials as a support to explain your point, to make sure you are really making strategic decision to gain competitive advantage and not just doing it because you think of something or because of you're so hyped about that new product. At the end, it's all financials. So that's the first thing about your scenario analysis. And you can exactly know how many units are cannibalized and how exactly it impact your scenario here. But the magic happen in here because the system, it's giving you exactly what cannibalization rate you can afford. So you launch your pod without losing any money. So at that 40%, doesn't really matter if you launch it or not, in a sense. If you launch it, doesn't matter because you will not lose money at that 40%. And just to show you, the system calculated for you, but let's say here, because we know it's 40%, we will try that 40% to see what it will be doing. So first you will say, okay, fine. I've seen that the 60% doesn't give me more profit. It's not efficient to launch at that level. So let's try that 40% and see exactly why I'm saying this is your break even. It's your break even because when you look at your Tide detergent solely and look at the 40% cannibalization for both of your product, you're good. Exactly the same scenario. You're not losing, you're not gaining. Because the cannibalization unit, it's less. And based on your it's really the unit profit that is driving this. Because again, when we have a unit profit that is higher than the old product, kind of always worth it. You just need, again, to be careful on how you position that new product. So if you cannibalize anything above 40%, it will never be as profitable as if you are only selling your Tide detergent as per statu quo without having any storyline. We've seen it with the 60%, and then your break even, it's really the 40%. And that really gives you a good perspective of what SAP Analytics Cloud is able to do. First, modelization. You've seen my set of data and revenue and volume planning, where we are looking at a very granular detail. And here you have another set of data with different interrelationship and different type of account that we can use in a different visualization, but again, all in the same system and all linked to your landing page. So it's very easy to navigate the system and ensure that your system are also well automated, because by just one click, and this is scripting engineering, this is what we are doing, this is what we are building. We looked at your business process, we understand maybe what those Excel or other type of product you are using today, and then we say, let us implement it to make sure you gain efficiency and stop having administrative burden. Great. So that was the demo for the product cannibalization effect. That what I was having for you today in that webinar. Hope that helped to gain perspective on what SAP Analytics Cloud can do, and hope it could ring some bell if you have any manual processes today that you might think that, yeah, we should automate that, because it's exactly true that we have so segregated workflow that maybe a tool like this could be. And even if you're an SAP customer already, and again, if you want to have a session with us, just contact us. It will be a pleasure to just look maybe at your need. It's free, doesn't engage to anything. And we can have a chat. We can just have a chat and take a look. It could be that you're ready to do your implementation for next year. So we are really there as a trusted advisor to make sure we are there all along the way. And we give you the right time and make sure you have the right resources as well to do these type of implementation. And after, you will really be self-sufficient, and the objective is to have a full suite automated. That was it for me today. If you have any question, we still have some times in here together, so it will be a real pleasure to answer any of your concern on the or question or any other topic related to FP&A.